Other than a relative. If you were to put someone... or anyone in this room, except for Rob, doing a great job with time. Other than, if someone were to be put on Mount Rushmore, who was a political figure for you, someone that you would look at and say, you know, I'm kind of stuck on this one, what would he or she do? Who would it be? Dee?
Before I answer that, I do want to point out one more thing. Brian, with his pub, has done great service to both the policemen and firemen, particularly those when they have funerals or following service. I thought I'd at least point that out before the end of the evening. Mount Rushmore. I was there once. It was wonderful. It was magnificent, amazing. A trip with my in-laws. It was quite a trip. But other times, Ronald Reagan, I believe, because of what he was able to do, what he was able to accomplish, how he was able to turn the tide from a continued progressive movement and turn it back. Yes, he was not able to balance the budget, but he got the economy going in the right way. He got principles going in the right direction. He got workfare going along the way, even though that didn't get accomplished until the Clinton administration. Some things don't happen immediately. That's my plan. That's how I see things. But Ronald Reagan would be the fifth man on Mount Rushmore. He g's my vote.
Figure. It's okay if I give you a military figure instead of a political figure? I would say the fifth head should be General Jimmy Doolittle. And for those of you who don't know who Jimmy Doolittle is, he led the first raid, secret raid on Japan back in April 1942. See, I know this about Jimmy Doolittle because I went to his funeral back in 1994, and I learned a lot about the man. Let me tell you a quick story. I hope you don't kill me on the minute. USS Hornet is steaming toward the Japanese Sea. And the Hornet is supposed to launch B-25 bombers off the deck. And they get spotted. They're supposed to be 400 miles out. They get spotted 800 miles out. They don't know if they're going to have enough fuel to get over Japan, do the bombing, and get to mainland China to land in Chongqing. So they get spotted. General Doolittle radios up to Admiral Halsey and says, what do you want to do? He says, this is your show. You're the leader. You decide what you want to do. And they're on the ground doing math, trying to figure out if they can get to China safely. Doolittle went over and kicked the chalk out of their hands and said, now, we launch now. And without that, I don't know if World War II would have turned out the way it did, and we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. Jimmy Doolittle's my hero. That's who I would put on the rocket.
Actually, Doolittle knew he got better gas mileage in Japan. Mr. Bunter, you're...
I would tend to point towards Ronald Reagan, but I would go one other place first, and that my answer would be Abraham Lincoln.
Ah, right.
And there's a very simple reason for that. He was a very simple man, looking for simple answers. And he had an enormous amount of faith in this country and our ability to do good things. And his steadfastness is what got us through one of the most tumultuous parts of our history. If you want to have a great read, there's a book out there called Team of Rivals. I would encourage you to go read it. It's one of the best books I've read in a very long time. And it is a fantastic read. One of the things I like to do from time to time, and this may come off sounding a little nerdy, but it's true. I find a lot of wisdom in what Lincoln used to say. So if you go and you look up a lot of his quotes, try it sometime. One of my favorites is very applicable in our time right now. And all of you in this room will understand it. Let us have faith that right makes might. And in that faith, let us go forth to do our duty. That's what this election is about. Abraham Lincoln is talking to us now. And we have a solemn duty to protect our country and to do what so many before us have done in this November's election.
Question to Mr. Hutton. You Josh, term limited yourself to 3 terms. Would you term limit yourselves? Mr. Adcock, you can just start.
I am also in favor of term limits. I'm in favor of term limits of 12 years. I would prefer to accomplish what I want to do in 6 years or less.
But 12. All right, and
Term limits, well, I'm not in favor of taking that off the table. We don't know what the world's going to be in, let's say, 2016, 12 years, whatever it's going to be. If we put a cap on our service, we're opening the door. We're opening the door for some houses horses to come through. I'm not saying you should be down there as long as, well, Inspector, that's all. That's all. I'll be dead. Yeah, I'll be dead for 8 years by the time I get restacked. We don't know what the world's going to be in 2016. We don't know if we're going to have another 9/11. If we're going to need strong conservative leadership. It's not so much that we don't know what we're going to have, is that we don't know who's coming up through the farm system. We don't know if we have good conservative Republicans coming up behind us. So if we don't have that, I'm not going to give the seat up so Alistair Schwartz can jump in for however many years and be a far left voice in Washington.
so you guys are running for a job. Let's say you all win the nomination on Tuesday. You all win when you get down there in November and then January. Now you're going for a job where all your predecessors have made a lot of decisions or indecisions that have resulted in a number of things, not the least of which is the fact that we're going broke if we're not broken bankrupt already. Those guys get paid a lot of money. Do you have any idea in your head at all, if you get elected, that in January you say, you know what, we don't deserve the money that we're making. We don't deserve the pensions that we get almost from day one of being here, and we get to make the same amount of money when we get voted out of office. Would you lead a fight to say, until this country gets turned around fiscally, we're going to cut the pay of the House of Representatives, we're going to cut the pension of the House of Representatives? Anybody willing to do that? If you were in private business, you'd be fired, right?
I guess.
So, what would you do?
Yes, I would be willing to lead by example, number one. I would say that no one in Congress should get a pay raise. I want to try to be a tiny bit realistic, realizing that I only have one vote out of, 435. But clearly, to at least minimize any increases would be step one. As far as pensions go, I believe that we should have a definite contribution as opposed to defined receipts and benefits. Yes, there's no reason that you should work for 2 months, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, and get a lifetime pension. Now, maybe you should get what you would have gotten in the private sector during a similar period of time. That I can see, and perhaps put aside in a 401k kind of arrangement. That I would go for sure. That's minimally what needs to be done.
Mr. Hawes?
Well, most of your politicians down in Washington are millionaires anyway, so they probably don't even need the salaries. I, however, look at the salary and say, wow, that's 3 times what a firefighter makes. And a firefighter works easily 3 times as hard. I have to say, it's true. I feel we need to cut just like you said about the pensions, there needs to be some more common sense when it comes to pensions. You don't go down there for 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and get a long-standing pension. That's got to get cut. That has to get investigated. And I think that the salary should come down. As I said, you got multimillionaires throwing $177,000 in. That's ridiculous. Bring those salaries down. Bring those salaries down. You want to start going to cut the spending? You want to bring common sense to Washington? Start there.
I agree with these guys. This is an easy one. The answer is yes. If it's good enough for the people, it's good enough for the people that represent the people.